Tokyo. Well, I should say Musashikogane. About half an hour out from Shinjuku is by JR line. And this is where I currently live. Typical suburbia of Tokyo. Well, the temperature is a little over 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, as usual. You guys do the calculation. Anyway, so once again, I decided to have a chat with you guys. Talk about myself and probably a bit of a history about myself as well. And excuse me for the sunglasses. The sun's really strong right now. Trying to match it with a purple to purple. Well, I was born in Tokyo in 1960. I'm not going to reveal that. Well, you can check it out on my Facebook. It's out there. But anyway, my father used to work for a news agency. He was a news writer, journalist. When I was 4, my father got transferred to overseas as an overseas correspondent. We moved to London, and we lived in this place called Wimbledon Park, and I had to go to a local kindergarten. I don't think they called it kindergarten back then, or maybe they did, I don't know. Anyway, and of course, you know, being Japanese, I had to learn the London way of speaking English. I don't remember this part, but my parents used to tell me that I speaking with Cockney accent. But anyway, we lived in London for about a year and a half, and my father got reassigned to cover the United Nations. And so we moved from Wimbledon Park to North Bergen, New Jersey, right across from the Hudson River, New York City. And I still remember this part. My parents were telling me that it's going to be the same English, so you should have no problem dealing and communicating with the children. However, I've had a bit of a problem trying to understand their English, and they had, of course, you know, problems understanding me as well too. But kids adapt very fast, and I started adapting really easily and made many friends. Then, after I finished my 2nd grade, my father got reassigned back to Tokyo. And I'll never forget this. It was January of 1969. And I was supposed to smoothly make and transition to the 2nd grade in the Japanese local school. However, my Japanese wasn't good enough. So the principal decided that I should go back to 1st grade and relearn everything from the beginning, which was kind of a blow to me, because we lived in Tokyo for only 6 months, and my father got reassigned, and we got transferred to New Delhi, India. And back then in 1969, there weren't too many Japanese people in India, even in a big city like New Delhi. Most of the people who lived there were either journalists or the embassy members. However, there was a Japanese school. The Japanese school used to be located within inside of the United States embassy. And from 1st grade to 6th grade, we had only 37 students. And back then, we didn't have any TVs. Of course, no internet. Broadcasts were either only in English or in local language. So, of course, we didn't bother listening to it. So, from dawn till dusk, we played outside. Such a fond memories of India. Still would love to revisit where we used to live. Anyway, so we lived in India. When I was in 5th grade, my father got reassigned again, and we came back to Tokyo. Man, it was a culture shock. From the age of 7 till, I think I was in 4th grade. I didn't have any TV, so I wasn't exposed to any of these cultural things of Japan. And I got so culture shocked. That year, after we came back, my father had changed his job, so we moved 3 times in the Tokyo area. So of course, I had to go through 4 different schools that year already. But it doesn't end there. And after settling back to Bunkyoku, we lived in Tokyo till I was in 7th grade, of course in junior high school. And I was supposed to get into 8th grade, but my father changed his job. And once again, we've moved. This time back to Los Angeles, California. And once again, I was supposed to get into 8th grade smoothly. However, all of the English that I've learned in my youth were completely gone by now. But so what? Didn't matter, kids adapt easily. But I was forced to go through 7th grade again in junior high. Now, this was a big blow on my psyche. Being a junior high school student in Tokyo and being a junior high school student in the suburb of Los Angeles, you can imagine the difference. Not that different these days, but back then, just like now in Tokyo, kids commute, kids take train, kids go anywhere on their own because of the relative safety, and since a lot of the schools that they attend to, they have to take trains to. But in LA, especially being a junior high school student, unlike that of the East Coast, but being a junior high school student in the mid-70s in Los Angeles, kids, their activities were so limited unless you take the bus. Majority of the times, you were driven by your family, by your mom, by your dad, to go anywhere. So the mental age differences existed, plus having to go through this trauma of relearning English again. I was really shell-shocked. But once again, little by little, I started to adapt myself. Well, I had to. It was definitely part of the survival tools, survival elements that I had to utilize. And I finished my junior high school in a place called Rancho Palos Verdes. We used to call it PB. Then I finished up to my sophomore year in high school. And this is where everything is getting really complicated. Anyway, I should have easily finished my high school life in Palos Verdes, but I was thrown into this very specialized academy. Yeah, I should say academy. Down in Carlsbad, California, where the Legoland exists now, I believe. It's about 30 miles north of San Diego. Why was I thrown into this academy? That's another story. It's really, really complicated. It's gonna take a few more vlogs to talk about that. Anyways, a lot has happened in Carlsbad, and when I graduated, my father changed his job and they've moved back to New York once again. I've simplified and abbreviated a lot. By the time I graduated from this academy, I went through 17 different schools, from kindergarten till high school. Isn't that bizarre? And as I told you, I had to learn, relearn Japanese, English, and what have you. And of course, the story doesn't end there. It never ends. Stay tuned. and I'll see you again. Thank you.